Good morning, everybody. Morning? Afternoon? It's afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mohammed Khalil, and I've always been told by my parents and by my teachers that if I don't do well in school, I will never succeed in life. You guys have probably heard that once or twice, right? Yeah? But this doesn't really make much sense to me. So my dad, he came to the US when he was 17, the same age as me. And currently, he's the most successful person that I know. But based off what I always hear, this doesn't really make much sense because he never really had the best education. I mean, his degree has nothing to do with the business that he currently runs. And this isn't obviously to say that I believe the school system to be obsolete per se, but I do believe that there is room for improvement and that the way it is set up now does not really determine your future success. First, before I continue on, let me make a disclaimer. This is not a topic about school. This talk is not about school, it is about the system of which school is currently run under. So we're going to start by going to some brief history of the school system. So the current system that we are currently under was implemented in 1837. And this is the system that we all know and love, where kids are put into classes based on their age, and then they are fed information for 4 years. At the end of those 4 years, they are selected based on how well that they did. This movement was known as the Common School Movement. It also had another name, the model. This should already be raising some red flags as to what the intention of this system is. In fact, Noam Chomsky says that the school system is designed to teach obedience and conformity and to prohibit a child's natural capacity from growing. Now, to someone who's hearing this, you might be thinking, well, that's a tad bit extreme, isn't it? But let's take a look at the evidence, shall we? And we'll see where it goes. So to start off, let's see how school treats creativity. So Pablo Picasso once said that every child is born an artist, but the problem lies into whether he remains one once he grows up. We as students and as people are all born with different talents and different unique backgrounds. But the current system sort of just ignores all these different facets of our personalities and judges us to the same exact standards as everybody else. What does this mean? Conformity. As people, when we are born, we don't automatically want to conform, but school sort of trains us to not have that anymore and to want to conform and to be like everybody else. An example of this, I was in my global politics class the other day, and we had an assignment where we were supposed to go online and find 3 articles, and we were supposed to write journal entries on those articles. Now, the journal entries themselves did not have any particular structure or setup. So once we looked and we found articles, we were like, okay, now what? We know we're supposed to do a journal entry, but what are we supposed to do? How does this entry go? The idea behind it was supposed to be that we were supposed to be able to form our own cohesive thoughts and ideas about what we were. But that really wasn't how it was turning out. We ended up asking the teacher, hey, what's the structure for this? And he said, it's whatever you want. It's your own journal entry. And we spent the rest of the class trying to figure out how to structure a journal entry. We've become so used to having down-to-the-letter instructions that we're more or less lost without them. The second thing that school does is it holds us to standards that really are sort of unnecessarily applied to you. Let me use myself as an example. I am an actor. It is what I love to do. It is what I plan on doing in the future. However, and I say this as a high school senior who is currently going through the whole applying to college thing, Ms. Siegel can tell you, is that me getting into college is partially determined by my math grade. Despite the fact that I will literally never use anything that I have learned in high school math just because that's not the path that I'm taking. And yet it's still something by which my success is measured. And now moving on to a third topic, which is uniform testing. So uniform testing is something that was designed under the whole conformity thing. It's designed to make sure that each student has his own thing and trying to keep them equal. However, this system really isn't the best and really doesn't work very well. In fact, the man who created the multiple choice test, Frederick J. Kelly, spent the rest of his life combating their use. Every year with our teachers, we go over SAT test-taking strategies. Do you want to know the one tip that I consistently hear every single year? Don't read the passage. Read the questions, skim the passage for answers, then go back and answer them to save time. How is this helping us at all? This isn't helping us learn. What this is teaching us is that we should strive not to learn, but to get a certain score. Because that's what school has become about, getting that perfect score that defines you as a person. Everyone strives to be that perfect 4.0 or that perfect 1600, because that is what school is currently prioritizing. Not education, but scoring. And my final qualm with school is how woefully unprepared it leaves us for the realities of parts of life. For example, we are going to graduate, and we are going to know nothing about taxes, about mortgages, about how to budget, about how to make a resume, because we are never taught these things in school. Despite the fact that the moment we leave, they'll suddenly become a big part of our lives, we never hear about them, ever. Now, you may be thinking, what other alternatives are there to the current school system? Well, there's actually several. The first one being project-based testing and assessments. So with current traditional tests, it's either black and white. You're either right or you're wrong. But with project-based testing, every student is able to use their own individual skills and talents to be able to solve a problem and create a solution. This is a much better way of utilizing a child's inner abilities, instead of just making them feel like they don't know what's going on because they're trying to rely on a skill set that really isn't something that they have. A second thing, which you may have heard of, is called the Socratic method of testing and assessing. Essentially, Socrates would assess his students by just engaging in dialogue with them. Because what this would do is assess that they had an understanding of what they are talking about, and it would open up further lines of dialogue and further lines of questioning. This helps stimulate mental growth and is much more effective than simply repeating back what the teacher has just told you. And the final method that I'm going to speak about is something that I've sort of concocted. It's basically that there are certain tracks that students will take based on what they are doing or what they are planning on doing, what they're interested in. It's called isolating interests and talents. So there will be different tracks, such as maybe an engineering track. There will be a music track, a science track, and kids will take courses that are tailored to learning about their track and to helping them actually apply them and use them in the future. This is a much more effective use of people's time, and it's much more effective use of people's talents and skills. I ask you this: how many Meryl Streeps or Mozarts or Elon Musks or Cristiano Ronaldos are out there, but that we just haven't been able to find, and just haven't been discovered because they were never given a chance to nurture their gifts? So to school, I say this: please, let us not waste any more time. Let us abandon the old factory model of learning, and let us bring school into the modern era. Thank you.